Thanks very much, everybody, for being here on a Friday afternoon. I'm sure there's competing alternatives that people were thinking of. I'm here to talk about something which is potentially what you're thinking of, which is a livelihood by being a quant that follows his passion for generating alpha. But I'm here to pitch in a different story, because up to now, the only route that's been pitched has been third-party employment. And here, what I'm trying to pitch to you today is independence. That independence would come through a turnkey asset management franchise, which is what we offer, what my company offers. The company is 7 years old. We have 40 employees, including 25 engineers and several quants, who have built a turnkey asset management franchise so that you don't have to build one. We live in 2020. If you're a writer, you write a book and then you publish it on Kindle. And yet, if you have a strategy, then either you go and work for somebody, or you invent a publishing house with all that comes with it before you even start making money, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, at least. And that's basically the reason why we're here. So what I've written down here is that the rags to riches typical path onto making it as an asset manager. You start by trading your own capital because you have a passion for trading. Eventually, potentially, you open either a brokerage account, or you start doing it at uni. Then you get employed by somebody who pays you probably a fraction of what the value you're generating for them, until at some point you've made enough money that you go, hey, I want to make it on my own. And then you go find some lawyers and a whole bunch of other providers that set you back potentially between $500,000 and $1 million, and then you spend 2 to 3 years chasing AUM, and then at some point then you've got your own asset publishing house that costs you a lot of money. You make variable revenues and you have fixed costs, and it doesn't always end well. And as you know, the road from 0 AUM to 100 AUM is littered with casualties. So our pitch is different. We basically offer an opportunity whereby you trade your own capital as best as you can, and then if you do that well, then you do a transition from paying for trading on your own capital to getting paid by third-party AUM, a 20% success fee, without having to incur in any of the business risk for doing that. So that's my pitch, to go from strategy to revenue in weeks in full independence. So how does it work? Well, this is the most important thing. Generating alpha is the toughest task on earth. It's the toughest zero-sum competition that you can face. And in our view, it's so difficult, you shouldn't be doing anything other than that. So if you're trying to generate alpha and then run a compliance organization, or go chasing funds or paying lawyers and so on, it's not going to happen. So basic idea is you trade either on Trader Workstation, which is the interactive brokers platform, or MetaTrader 405, which is a CFD platform, which has the benefit of being able to fraction your trades and have all the diversification you need with limited amount of capital. And you generate, or you focus on generating alpha 24/7, 365 or 365 with no distractions. And then what we've created is a wrapper that tracks your evolution. You can think of it as the IETF. You start trading on day one, your NAV is 100. As you trade, any investors in your wrapper will replicate whatever trades you place. And then at the end of every quarter, we meaning our FCA regulated asset manager, will collect a 20% success fee from any investors in your strategy, and will pay it out to you. Which de facto means we are running a platform business that gives you all that you need to run your own hedge fund, except the alpha, which is what you have to supply. So a lot of people ask us, what are you? Are you a prime brokerage? Are you a risk manager? Do you just do some sort of auditing and reconciliation to create the wrapper? Are you a technology company? Do you offer compliance services? Do you run my operations, or do you do my cap intro? And the answer is we do all of that, because that's what it takes if you want to just focus on producing alpha. So you'd be at the left-hand side, you're kind of the alpha producer, and then the AUM are on the right-hand side. In fintech jargon, we are a two-sided marketplace facing the alpha supply and the alpha demand. Now, as you can imagine, getting this off the ground has been a huge chicken and egg situation, because in the beginning you don't have alpha producers and you don't have investors, because you don't have alpha producers, so it's kind of quite secular. But we've really worked our way through that. There are 15 managers in the platform. 2 of them are here today. The top managers are now managing 6 million euros AUM at 10% monthly value at risk, which is probably more like a 12 million euro institutional allocation. They're pulling in between 300 and 400,000 euros a year by working. I mean, the top manager works, I don't know, I always forget the place, but he works 250 kilometers west of Moscow by the Volga. He's 29 years old. I don't even know what he does, but well, you can look at the strategy. You can look at, if you look HFD Hotel Foxtrot Delta / DarwinX, then you'll see the guy's ticker. Yeah, and basically that starts to be hopefully attractive. Maybe if you're already pulling in a couple of million, then potentially you're not going to do that. But hey, if you're doing your PhD or you're in university and you're clever young thing and you've got an algorithm that works, why not try it out? Importantly, and this is what sets us apart from many other places as well, is that all the track records you see are live track records funded by live funds from their promoters. So they put the dollars where the mouth is. And I'm here to also present that today we're launching, we're going from a 1 product company to a 2 product company. Up to now we've had an exchange model whereby essentially we've got supply people, everybody trades their own funds from home. We've got 3,000 live alpha candidates, of which about 20 are investable in my opinion, because I'm actually an investor in them at the moment. And of course it's a competition of everybody against everyone else. And what we see is that there's a big gap in professional asset managers who have anywhere between 5 and 10 and 40, 50 million AUM, who are running subscale operations on the asset management side, who could really benefit from the technology stack we've built to power the franchise and take away a lot of the operational risk. So we've introduced what we call the private label business, which is different from the other one in that the only choice is the single manager. So if you're already running AUM, this is potentially a much more efficient solution to basically running your operations and paying us just a variable platform fee for that business. In the private label business, unlike in the exchange, you set your charges. You can charge a management fee, you can charge a success fee. You can either operate under your own FCA license or you can operate under our own. And essentially run your private label. So I wanted to introduce you later on to a couple of our partners in here, but first I wanted to explain how the exchange works. Basically, if anybody has questions, because it's a bit abstruse, but the idea is, at the left-hand side you have a lot of people who are trying to produce alpha. We are the marketplace that does 3 things. The first thing is we manage the risk, so all the strategies come in as variable value at risk strategies, and we have a built-in algorithmic risk management engine that modules the risks so that everybody has the same target risk. We have set it up at 10% because that seems to be what our B2C customers like, but we could set it at 5, 3 or anything. The important thing that does is that everybody is competing on a level playing field for risk. There's no, who's the guy who's made the most but actually has taken the most risk. No, everybody takes the same risk and therefore everybody is comparable for returns. The second bit, and I can't stress how important this is the Darwin wrapper encrypts your intellectual property. So I'm sure many of you guys know the likes of Quantopian, Numerai, or the social trading outfits. Unlike the social trading outfits, we never ever publish the live trades. So when you invest in a Darwin, you're replicating the underlying signal, but you don't know what the trades are. And crucially, if you've got an algo, the algo will never be with us. So we will see the trades, but we will not see the underlying IP. And that's deliberate because we don't want you to think that we're free riding of your intellectual property. Okay, so that's the second bit, the encrypting the signal. The third one is because we have access to all the granular trades and we see exactly what everybody is doing real time, we have the opportunity of labeling the sets with metadata that we make available via an API. So anybody who's on the platform is available with a real-time market value and lots of statistics via an API that a front office or research function could use inside a hedge fund. And then of course, last but not least, it's the Darwinian competition level. That's what we call the Darwin exchange. That's what DarwinX stands for. It's survival of the fittest. It's 100% transparent and 0% BS. Apologies for that. Now, what does the private label add to this? Well, because we've now got the entire infrastructure, we can make it available to each of you individually, and our idea is to make you a rock star. So basically, if you have what it takes, we're going to put you in front of the investors that you go to. We'll power you with professional presentation toolkit. We'll power you with the entire backend that it takes to run an asset management franchise, so that, as I said, the rags to riches period, provided you've got it, because that bit we cannot do it. You know, if you don't produce the alpha, there's nothing we can do for you. But the rags to riches period, it takes the lowest amount of time and the lowest amount of capital and risk. Importantly, what the platform includes is an increasing ecosystem of fundraisers, because just like you, if you're trying to raise funds for your own franchise, will have to go out to meet investors. There's people who've been in those places before, and I wanted to introduce you to Niels. Niels is currently the manager with the most AUM in the platform, and that's 6 million of AUM that he has raised himself, because that's what we're here for. We allow him to focus on what's good. So Niels.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, cheers.
Cool. Juan, thanks for the introduction. So my name's Niels. Just for some background, my story with DarwinX started about 2 years ago when I found the platform because I wanted somewhere to incubate my strategy. I said, I've got a strategy, it works, and I need somewhere where I can put it, build a track record, and then spin out at some point, raise some money. I was working at UBS at the time, so I spent 8 years on the trading desk at UBS, building my track record at the same time. And at some point through the traction that the managers at DarwinX get through the platform, you actually manage to get money allocated to you by performing well, having the right risk management. And after about 16 months of running on DarwinX, I figured out I actually make more money doing this than working at UBS. So we thought, all right, we're going to turn this into something bigger and start raising money for my own strategy as well as for other managers' strategies. And through the network that I bring and that the other managers bring, it actually allows the top performers on the platform to pull in quite serious AUM in a very short period of time. So in my example, for my strategy, our AUM growth is approximately 15% every month. That's net new money coming in. There's a lot of traction being gained now through family offices and banks that are interested in doing this. And from the manager's perspective, it's a way that if you have a strategy that works and you're good at implementing the right risk management with the help of the DarwinX technology, then you can actually get access to pretty serious money quite quickly. So in February this year, I started raising money for my strategy, which started with $400,000. So it's grown in the last 8 months to 6 million and at a growing rate. So projected is we'll get to 10 million by the end of the year and then 20 by next year.
Greg Winston, Alpha Week. How does the due diligence work on your strategy with DarwinX? Because that's such a big part of the allocation process for professional investors.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I missed something. Could you talk to that?
Yeah, it's a pity that we don't have access to the internet, but if you were on the phone and you can look it up, that would be. So what we do is, because we are the broker, we essentially have access to all the trades, and we certify vis-a-vis the investors that the trades have actually been placed. So in that way, we can act as an independent third party that certifies the track record. And then being the broker also affords us instant visibility with the actual trades, and we can do a lot of analysis around that. So the Darwin itself is tradable. It has basically, you have the tick level movement by the track record since inception on an API. So all the quantitative analysis you can do there. What we're now trying to do is include more qualitative descriptions for the strategies in the platform, because one thing we figured is we wanted to make it all deliberately very technological, and what's still missing in the platform today is the fact that you can't really get to see or sort of speak to the person behind the bit. So at this point we're facilitating that in offline, but right now we're basically building Tinder for managers and investors into the platform, so that you can apply to speak to the manager. So he will force them to do some disclosure, so that 90% of the questions are taken care of, the common questions. And then if you want to speak to the manager, then basically there'll be a Tinder application swipe left, say I want to speak to the guy, and he will be the one to decide, well, you know, is he credible enough that he will bring the AUM, or is he going to waste my time? And then ultimately it's the manager's decision. Right. Similarly, on the platform has a section which provides full disclosure on the entire history of the trades. So whilst we don't disclose the live trades to protect the intellectual property, if the manager chooses not to withhold the history, anybody can see what trade got taken on what asset, in what minute, in what direction.
Gotcha. And sorry for another question. So is most of the allocations of private money, because my head's in the sort of big pension plan, insurance company, endowment foundation space.
Yeah.
Is that who you're raising?
No, that's not really. So I think we think there's two ways to go for alpha. One is you have the 50 PhDs who are really going to play in the billions leagues, and that game, I think it's quite difficult to play from Russia when you're alone. But when you're playing the game of trying to go for a strategy that scales to 5, 10, 15, 20 million, which is subscale for the institutions, but certainly there's a lot of professional demand from mid-tier asset allocators who are looking for liquid uncorrelated strategy. So that's the middle market in which we live right now. Of course, it's a journey. Part of this was the chicken and egg situation. We've spent a lot of years where we couldn't really go out and sell because what's the point of selling something if you know the investor's going to lose money? But eventually, we've got it to 15, 20. For the first 15 and 20 top managers. I don't think we ever will go for the billion allocations because by definition, a lot of these strategies are long tail and capacity constrained. But I think that's precisely why I believe in the alpha they're generating. They're specializing in bits that you can't really run. I mean, if you're part of Bluecrest or Brevan Howard, you're never going to be able to run a P&L of less than millions a year. Whereas you can if you're working from somewhere in near Moscow.
So I think in terms of raising institutional money, I mean, it comes with my background of being at a big bank for a long time as well, is that we can bring these kind of clients to DarwinX, and that's what's happening now. By creating an investable wrapper, which you have through DarwinX, and then even putting one layer on top in terms of an Eisenco structure or a Luxembourg fund structure, you can attract quite serious money. So putting, let's say, 100 million to work spread across the top 6 or 7 or 10 strategies is quite doable, and most of them have shown they have the capacity to be able to absorb that. And I mean, it's still early in the game, so I think as more managers come to the platform, you attract more talent, then you attract more ability to really put institutional money to work as well. So I mean, there's one big family office we're talking to now who have expressed interest for 100 million to be deployed into a multi-Darwin portfolio.
Okay.
Obviously based on certain correlation and diversification criteria. But generally, the interest is there to do that kind of thing. But like Juan said, you put $1 billion and it gets a bit tricky, but chunks of 100 million up to a certain size, you can do it. It all depends on how many managers you have. If for example, now the top 10 managers become 100 who are equally good, then obviously your scalability is massive.
And the other thing is the market environment is quite favorable, and we've spent 10 years where a monkey could park money in an ETF and make money, and now everybody is being charged. I mean, nobody wants to allocate to equities, or at least not on the beta long-only equities strategies, and the ECB charges you 60 basis points for parking the treasury with them. So that's where we think liquid alpha has a place.
We got a question at the back.
Thank you. So I didn't get exactly how it works, but you tell me that our fund manager back in Russia, he invests his own money, and then you mimic whatever he is doing.
So we're the prime broker to the fund manager in Russia, so we know his trades.
Yes, but then when you go and trade after him, price will move.
Yeah.
And likewise, when he starts to unwind, price will move again. So
Yes.
the performance of the personal portfolio of your manager might be significantly different than the performance of everyone else that is deciding to subscribe to that strategy.
That's exactly right, and that we track and disclose transparently in the interface. So at this point, there's about 100 milliseconds of latency from the first trade to the follow trade. And there's of course a market impact slippage effect, but both of those we track. So when you're an investor, you see what the reference strategy made and what the divergence between that reference strategy and the trackers.
But
Tracking error.
you're operating on highly liquid.
So we operate so that we deliberately restrict the universe to the 20% of references that concentrate 80% of the liquidity. We haven't really conceived this to go into illiquid assets, because precisely to avoid that situation.
Okay, and your slippage right now is Is it positive, negative?
So we deliberately introduce a bit of a markup on the trading side, so that the slippage only starts getting negative after the first AUM have gone. At this point, it's positive, but there's no question that at some point there's a capacity cap that the manager manages, because ultimately, because he gets compensated on the success fee. If the marginal euro is actually destroying value, he's the first one who has an interest to cap the AUM. But that's true for us, and that's true for anyone else. And from our standpoint, we look at that as a success in the sense that it's mission accomplished.
Sharing the same average price to everyone, to the manager and to the.
Yeah, so we're now changing the platform so that the lead trader actually goes in a single block with the investors, so that we get rid of this difference. And what will happen is that naturally, as capacity gets saturated, the curves will flatten. So
okay, but then it's equal to everyone. There's no slippage by construction.
it's always equal. Like that's the vision. Yes, of course that requires another 15 to 20 engineers, but we'll get there. You had a question as well.
Yeah, where does the actual signal calculation code live? Does it live on your infrastructure and you feed in the signal via an API to DarwinX, or does that live on that system?
So I missed the first part of the question.
And where does the signal generation code?
The signal generation sits with the manager.
So I, for example, have
you've got your own infrastructure, your own data feeds,
exactly.
etc., and then you feed by an API. You feed the signals to.
Correct.
So I have
we just see the trades.
I have my server in Frankfurt. That's where my strategy runs, and all the intellectual properties with me. The only thing that DarwinX gets is the signals to trade on, and that's it. They don't have my algo or anything.
And what asset class do you currently support?
So we've come from the CFD space. Initially, this was FX and commodities and indices. We are now rolling out. We have already rolled out US equities. We are in the process of rolling out European equities, and essentially the entire stack is ready for anything which is Delta One and liquid. So we're now integrating with Interactive Brokers. That will go live in Q1 of 2020. And the idea is to go for the 20% of references that generate 80% of the liquidity on Delta One assets. I think we'll stay away from options because it gets quite tricky.
Yeah.
So maybe just to give you an idea of what the direction is that we want to go in with this is, the idea is essentially that we will get a fully investable wrapper like a fund structure, Luxembourg fund or a Maltese fund, or a structured note, something in that direction, because that's kind of the step you need to get institutional money. With that wrapper, you raise money and allocate to the top 10 managers. So let's say if we go out and raise 100 million, then those 100 million go into the Luxembourg structure, which then invests directly in the Darwins that are on the platform. Which means the tail end of that is that each manager within that, let's call it portfolio, will get a certain allocation of that 100 million. So if we do an equal weighting, then everyone can basically get 10 million and then get the 20% performance fees on the money that's been allocated to them on a success basis.
What about if somebody wants a customised portfolio with certain weightings to a different
do that as
structure
well.
they like?
You can
Because
do
it
that
doesn't
in
have them
another
now.
method.
You basically log in now and you can back this to your card.
So at the moment that's
So it's not an out of the box fund of funds. It's a
No. So
it's
like
fully
we
customized.
basically, which is the wrapper that we're the exchange, and then we call it a Darwin. Other people could call it a fund, and then we
Right.
can invest into several Darwins at the same time and create a fund of funds in that sense. And I wanted to also introduce you to Chicho. Chicho is another manager in the platform, and because a lot of people will be asking who's this for. So we've got all the range of customers from retail people who've never traded before, because it's open to anybody, all the way up to regulated fund managers who leverage our stack as a retail distribution channel. So thanks Chicho for being here.
Thank you. Well, basically, I want to give you the point of view of a regulated entity. I'm a hedge fund. I've been running like institutional hedge fund in Spain for Santander, BBVA, also having institutional clients in England, UK, and so, and US and so on. We pivoted the company 3 years ago from institutional quant hedge fund into a fintech company. So we're a quant advisor. So you get robo-advisors, which are like along the market, yeah, and technology, but just along the market goes up, you make money, the market goes down, you lose money, yeah. A quant advisor is a hedge fund on a fintech board, which means that you got all the technology. We work like an N26. Let's say everything is cloud-based, everything is like we don't have any physical stuff, and then we do. The good thing about it is that we can do B2B, which is the one-to-one, old-school, traditional institutional client, and then we do B2C, which is going directly to the client. We're probably one of the, if not the only one of the first hedge funds in the world that does B2C directly. Or you can do B2B2C, which is what we're doing here, because basically it's a great focus. I mean, if you think about how the investment has been done so far, you invest your money in a collective investment vehicle with another 1,100 somewhere else. You put the money there. Then the info you have in 2019 is one picture with a newsletter of your fund of the previous month in 2019. Well, it's ridiculous. Like everything else, you can go in the streets and you get offered clothes according to you real time. But in asset management, the last century, you're still having no info. The idea is of why not trying to get to B2C and offer an institutional product, institutional track record and correlation, but can be offered to retail or institutions. But obviously institutions know how to invest, but retail from both points of view. Like you being the manager that is showing the strategy here, or you being the investor looking for right strategy. So all the as Juan said, maybe at the beginning, obviously the platform is getting more and more regulated entities like us. So we offer a strategy through this. So to give you an idea, my mix in traditional funds or managed accounts is like 90% 10. So I think that's the future. The future goes to customize where your money is. In the future, you're gonna have the money in your account. You're gonna have transparency. You're gonna have all the full info. Yeah, and that's where the market is going. The world is going there, no doubt about it. But then the mix still in real world is there. It's gonna be changing. Obviously, we're always gonna have funds and so on. But the mix in 10 years' time, it'll be much more to customize, and through platforms like this, where you can access loads of people that can really mix.
Bypassing third-party employment altogether. So it's funny, though certainly not in the financial space.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that, for example, he was saying in terms of raising money, we haven't done much in terms of marketing because we've been building for the last 2 years. We've been just building the track record here and so on. Because I can say, but we already have almost 1.5 million without any marketing effort on my side. Which obviously that's
literally free money.
Yeah, that's literally without doing anything, no marketing, 1.5 million. Yeah, which are out of almost 300 investors. So, so the idea, the good thing
you've got a 10-year track record, right? So.
I know, but with you it's 2 years. The thing is that the platform also allows you to raise more money without having to spend the money on all the marketing or digital marketing and so on. And if you do digital marketing, which many of you may know about, you don't need so much money to go to specific blogs or focus or whatever. So that's the other stuff. In terms of, for example, divergence, we have like a 6 basis points average divergence to our trading, for example. Just to give you an idea of going exactly what is it.
Yeah. Actually, right now we're starting to build an execution optimization team within the company to look exactly at basically on the OTC assets, negotiate bespoke feeds, to look at capacity, look at decay, the sort of things that you would have in a hedge fund, but making that available to 20 guys today, hopefully 100 guys, including you, in the future. That was really what we had for today. So
I think the best way to kind of summarize Darwinex as a company is that it lets you run a hedge fund without spending 2 or 3 or 400,000 in setup costs. Essentially, you get the same setup, you get access to investors, I guess through people like me bringing money to the platform as well. And you can go through everything you would have without basically doing all of the cumbersome, expensive stuff you need to do with setting up a traditional hedge fund with all the same benefits. You have the same performance fees. In future, you'll be able to levy a management fee as well. So you have all the added benefits of having a hedge fund without the bureaucratic mess that's usually associated with it. And this is the main reason people don't do it. They don't want to spend 2 or 3 or 400,000 on setting it up because they can't. And then once you set it up, you need at least 10 million in assets to be able to cover your running costs, which all these problems go away with Darwinex.
So what are the steps actually getting set up the platform from, let's say, today I go home and I'm
you don't have to go home. You basically take your mobile right now, you sign up to the platform online, and then you're in.
The way to look at it is if you make an account with Darwinex, you build your strategy. It doesn't have to be algorithmic. You can have a manual trading strategy. Some of the most successful guys on Darwinex are manual traders.
And do I start trading my own capital?
Yeah.
You can have your own account. You can put whatever money's there. After a certain period, Darwinex will turn it into an investable wrapper, and at that point, any client on the Darwinex platform can invest in you.
So the sequence is, if you don't have a previous track record, then you basically sign up, you open your own trading account, and then as soon as the risk management algos know enough about your exposure profile so that we can basically track the NAV value with the value at risk that we offer, at that point you basically start from ground zero. And then what we've seen is as soon as you get to €500,000 to €1 million of allocation, then you start popping up in the investor radar. And then at this point there's a lot of retail investors, and there's the retail investors are known legendary at buying the high and selling the low. So that's one of the issues we have. But you have to start somewhere, and then there's already several institutions who basically leverage the technology stack because they have, as Chicho was saying, they have a lot more insight about the guys that are on our thing than the guys who are sitting right next to them in their office because they don't have the technology.
Any more questions?
Well, thank you so much. Just one quick point is that we're looking to collaborate with investment and investment societies at universities because we know a lot of this lends itself quite well to running competition and courses because we want to tap the talent before they go work for third parties and disappear. So if any of you is involved in that, I would love to hear from you guys afterwards or whenever it suits. Thank you so much.
Great. Round of applause.